Welcome back. I'm Uday Pratap Singh. You're joining us on NewsX. Our big focus this hour, the government has told the Supreme Court that it had limited options to secure the release or prevent the execution of Nimisha Priya, the Kerala nurse scheduled to be executed in Yemen on the 16th of July. Underlining that it was trying its best, the government also said that blood money being negotiated by Priya's family was strictly a private matter. This comes against the backdrop of intensive efforts by Nimisha's friends and family to secure her release by offering $1 million in blood money to the family of the victim, Talal Abdo Mehdi. In 2015, Nimisha had collaborated with Mahdi to establish a clinic in Sana'a, Yemen's capital. Yemeni law requires nationals to be involved in setting up businesses, prompting her to seek Mahdi's assistance. However, over the next 2 years, differences cropped up between Nimisha and Mahdi, and she allegedly was abused by him. Mahdi allegedly took away her passport, making a trip back to Kerala impossible. Mahdi also misrepresented himself as a husband to the Yemeni authorities, due to which she couldn't get any aid. In a bid to reclaim her passport, Nimisha allegedly injected Mahdi with sedatives in 2017. However, an overdose of the sedative resulted in Talal Abdo Mahdi's death. Nimisha was found guilty of killing Mahdi and was sent to prison. She was sentenced to death by a trial court in Yemen in 2018 and has been on death row in Houthi-controlled Sana'a. Joining us to discuss this story in further detail is Ambassador KP Fabian, former diplomat. Madhav Nalapat, editorial director of the Sunday Guardian, is also joining us live. Dinesh Jotwani, Supreme Court advocate, is live with us as well. Madhav Nalapat, let me make a start with you first. What do you make of this statement by the government in the Supreme Court saying that it can do very little to prevent the execution, the imminent execution of Nimisha Priya?
Yeah, that's a sad reality. The problem is that if the government uses its own funds to pay the blood money, then what happens is you basically open the door to a lot of nationals, we'll call them that, in conflict-ridden countries to basically pass on any murders by their own nationals as murders by Indians living in that area. And that will open the floodgates. And I think there's absolutely no doubt that there is no option. The only option is for the family to collect money, and possibly newspapers and other media in Kerala and in other parts of the country could probably try and set up an immediate fund. But the reality is that very little can be done for a simple reason that the law prevailing is tribal law, and different tribes have different tribal codes prevailing there. And the tribal shura, the tribal council, they are they are the lower court, the high court, and Supreme Court, all rolled up in one. So there is a very limited window of options. I think the government of India is quite right in saying that these options are extremely limited, and as far as the government is concerned, well, even more limited. I just want to maybe make Iran is very important, frankly, to that part of Yemen, which is ruled by the Houthis, which is essentially an insurgent group. And they have been declared proscribed by several international agencies. And of course, therefore, it's very difficult and very sensitive for India to directly negotiate with them, which is why I think I'm sure the family is being assisted in its own negotiation very discreetly. But there is one slim chance I can think of. As far as India is concerned, the Iran relationship, well, it is an important relationship, but you cannot sacrifice the relationship of the other sheikdoms for sake of doing something extraordinary in your Iranian diplomacy. And the second point, of course, that that Russia is very influential in Iran, and India has got very good relations with Russia. Our very able and capable foreign minister, Jaishankar, has very good relations with Sergei Lavrov, who's a very, very influential figure in Russia and the individual who deals with foreign entities. And I'm sure that they have got linkages, with all kinds of entities, and very good linkages, if I may say so, with the Iranians. So one final chance could be that the government of India through its external affairs minister, appeals to privately to Lavrov to request intervention, last minute intervention in this case, so that a settlement can be arrived at. But essentially, the fact of the matter is, Uday, according to what I know of the Yemeni tribal law, I mean, the complication is that the body of the individual. I mean, I'm very certain that Nimisha Priya is right that an overdose was given accidentally, whatever the causes are. I mean, maybe she was distraught or whatever. But after that, it was very unwise to chop this gentleman up, because that makes a settlement much more difficult, because that kind of, according to the law prevailing there, I mean, it kind of prevents
Yes.
his entry into
Yes.
heaven. I just want one more point, and that point is that I think we need to pray, frankly, for Nimisha Priya, and if I may
Okay.
say so, she has gone through purgatory and hell, and she deserves to go through the gates of heaven if ever we fail.
Yes.
And this
Ambassador Fabian,
case,
let me draw you in here. What is the current status of India-Yemen relations? Where do they stand right now? Also, Ambassador Fabian, as far as, of course, the government is concerned, what really can be done in this kind of situation to delay or stop this execution?
Thank you. Well, as far as Yemen is concerned, we have to recognize the Houthis. It is wrong to call them rebels because they are ruling a good part of Yemen in terms of population, almost a majority, and they have defeated Saudi Arabia militarily. So to call them rebels, well, it is not, what shall I say, very realistic. And secondly, Houthis, they follow a variation of the Shia religion. And thirdly, they are very close to Iran, as already pointed out by Professor Nalapad. And here I want to make one point. The media, especially the Western media, have been characterizing him as a proxy of Iran. That is absolutely wrong. They have got grassroots level support. That is very, very important to recognize. Now, in these matters, what is required is a payment of blood money. And again, I agree with Professor Nalapat that there is no question of Government of India paying it. But I learned from the BBC, it has come, that a guy called Samuel Jerome, he's a social activist based in Yemen, and he has told the BBC that $1 million has been offered. So there is a possibility, a probability that between now, 14th of July, and the 16th, there could be a settlement. After all, they would also like to have that big amount of money. Now, coming to Government of India stand, well, Professor Nalapad said that, EAM could speak to Lavrov, his Russian counterpart, and all that. Yeah, good point.
Right.
But the fact is, India has excellent relations with Iran, and India should deal directly with Iran. And frankly, between you and me, we do not know whether any approach has been made by India directly with Iran. It is possible that we have made it, but we do not know. And that also has a high chance. And don't forget that she is only 34. So we have to do everything possible to let her live, whatever be the big crime that she has committed, for
Okay.
which a punishment can be given in a different way.
Okay. Let me also bring in at this point, Mukul Rohatgi is joining us live in the broadcast as well on NewsX, senior advocate and former Attorney General of India. Mukul Rohatgi, thank you for speaking with us today on the broadcast. What do you make of this filing in the Supreme Court of India by the government? The government maintaining that it can do very little in this matter. What do you make of what they've said in court?
See, the problem is that we don't have proper diplomatic relations with Yemen. And that's why I think the government has made a statement to the effect that they cannot do much. But I personally believe that if some pressure is brought on the government of Yemen, and that could probably be through Iran, which is our best bet, because the Houthis there are backed by Iran. And I read that this lady is in a prison which is controlled by Iran-backed Houthis. So Iran would be the best bet. We have good relations with them. So that is one way of exercising pressure. The other is, of course, blood money, but then blood money, government of India cannot provide. I think the government of India should explore with its citizens or non-citizens of Indian descent who are based in the Middle East, whether it be Yemen, whether it be Saudi, whether it be UAE, and use their good offices if they can help us. I remember in a particular case where a person from Kerala had been convicted for murder, was in a similar situation. There, one of the most well-known Keralite Indians settled in the UAE, namely Mr. Yusuf Ali, whom I know personally, who is the owner of a huge brand of stores, supermarkets called Lulu.
Yes.
He actually went out of his way and he paid from his own pocket by going to a country like Yemen, I don't know which country it was, and he secured the release of the individual by paying blood money, and that individual from Kerala was released and he came back to Kerala and he was widely greeted in Kerala, etc.
Okay.
So this is one example which comes to my mind, and maybe any other country which is friendly with Yemen and friendly with India, that we can emphasize with them and say, look, past is past, blood money is being offered. We bring some political pressure to see that a young lady does not die on the gallows. Because obviously what she did was in extreme circumstances, which in our jurisprudence is called grave and sudden provocation. So I am sure Mr. Jaishankar is a very able foreign minister, and I am sure they must be working to the best of their ability.
Okay.
But
So
these are
as you're
some of
saying,
the-
back channel diplomacy perhaps is something that can help us at this point of time. Now the government is also, they have spoken about the blood money issue, but they've said obviously that is something that the family has to negotiate, and the family is negotiating as we speak as well. What is the likelihood of that working?
No, it can work, but the point is the family by itself may not have access, to the right channels to reach the family concerned there of the deceased. Therefore, you may need to put in an interlocutor, somebody who's well known, who can reach, those people of the deceased and make an offer, and if necessary, add something from his own pocket, which can be contributed by people of Kerala or by people of India. It's not a big deal to arrange a couple of crores. If a fund is created for that purpose by the state of Kerala, I'm sure you can easily, immediately, within hours, we can have a kitty of 10, 20, 25 crores. There's no issue on that. So they need to have a proper person in the middle, like the example that I have given, and only then it will work. It's not like going to a shop and say, I've got the money, I'm going to buy something. You got to know the ropes, you got to know their country, you got to know how things move. And that is why it is important to have an experienced intermediary.
Absolutely. Now also, of course, the Supreme Court has kept the hearing in this matter now for Friday. What do you expect will happen in the next hearing? How is the case likely to proceed in the apex court? Do you believe the court will ask the government once again for their progress in this matter?
Of course, everybody is concerned. It's a human issue, whether it's a judge of the Supreme Court or a person like you and me, we are concerned because a citizen of our country is going to go to the gallows. God knows whether that judgment is correct or not. God alone knows whether she got proper assistance or she got proper access to justice or to help her out in the case. I don't know what kind of procedure was followed. Therefore, we are all concerned, so is the Supreme Court. And that is why the hearing has been kept within, you see, a few days. And I am sure the Supreme Court will prod the government to see whether it can use its own good offices, its own channels, its own back channels. It is obvious that the government of India can reach people like I have suggested. The government of India knows how its citizens or people of Indian descent are doing well in those kind of nations. They know government of India is aware of that. So the government of India can tap them and say, please help us. And I'm sure every Indian, whether an Indian or a person of Indian descent, even having a foreign passport, will by and large try and see if something can be done, because these things are irreversible. Another month passes and the execution happens, then that's the end of the matter. So time is of essence. Mr. Jaishankar, I'm sure, is an experienced person, but the least that is required is to reach out to Indians or people of Indian descent or people who have sympathy with India and Indian people.
In the Middle East. In the Middle East, absolutely.
In that region to move and move as soon as you can, as fast as you can, and maybe some results will come up.
What about the ICJ or any other body, Mr. Rodgi?
No,
can they intervene?
No, sir, ICJ has no jurisdiction in this kind of thing. ICJ is not an appellate authority over a Yemen Supreme Court. You can't have an ICJ over the Indian Supreme Court. Similarly, you can't have ICJ over the Yemen Supreme Court. That is our question.
Okay, so it's only back channel diplomacy that can work, and obviously, as you've just said, perhaps this is the time, because time is of the essence for the government to use their good offices. We'll be monitoring this story. Appreciate you joining us for the time being, Mukul Rohtgi, with your opinion and perspective. Ambassador KB Fabian, quickly coming to you. Do you believe this third party sort of diplomacy is needed now? You were just also talking about our relations with India, between India and Yemen. That's also something Mr. Rodgi was referring to, that are not at the levels that can immediately see an intervention by the Yemeni authorities. But can the UAE or others help us at this juncture?
Not the UAE. Listen, UAE joined
Iran.
Saudi Arabia in attacking Yemen and
Iran. I mean, yeah,
bombing the Houthis. So leave that out. Let me once again reiterate, just because we do not have diplomatic relations with the Taliban in Afghanistan, does it mean that we don't deal with them? We can deal with them, and we have dealt with them. See, diplomacy means engaging with those who are in power. So, diplomatic relations or not doesn't matter. It can be back channel diplomacy. Second point I want to emphasize is that my question to the External Affairs Ministry is that has it approached Iran? And as I said, maybe it has approached, and it may not be prudent to say it right now. But my hope and assessment is that she will be saved. And as I said earlier, that Samuel Jerome, who is based in Yemen, has told the BBC that $1 million they have. So that is being offered. So let's hope she'll be saved.
Okay, let me take that also to Dinesh Jotwani now. Dinesh Jotwani, the Supreme Court, of course, actively monitoring this. You saw what the government, of course, said in the court today. How do you react to that argument, and what could possibly happen between today and Friday? Do you believe, obviously, the fact that the short date has been given of Friday, emphasizes from the Supreme Court as well, the time is of the essence, and perhaps they do expect a further progress report to be conveyed by the government in this time of what back channel diplomacy has been used?
Exactly, Uday. That's my concern. It's a date on the Friday, and on the Friday, the Supreme Court, the bench of Justice Vikram Nath and Justice Mehta may say this case has become infructuous because she's no more. Okay, so that is the gravity of the situation before the court. We don't want to hear this news on Friday that the court says there is no case anymore. Let me just point out one small thing which is very important. Had this kind of an offense taken place in India, what would have been a punishment in India? Okay, it's not a culpable homicide amounting to murder. Here is a lady who wanted her passport back, and she thought she will give him a sleeping pill and then take her passport back so that she can travel back to the country. It is unfortunate, it is accident that happened, that there was an overdosage of these sleeping pills. Had this given the facts, had this happened in India, what would have been a punishment? Can you answer? Answer is only 2 years. Okay, this is culpable homicide not amounting to murder. It's like any accident taking place on the road. Now, in Yemen, she is being hanged because of this, based on the same facts. I think Indian government needs to do much more. And in a way, I would maybe partially disagree with Senior Counsel Mukul Rohtgi that Indian government cannot give this blood money. Here is a case which is done, which is a lot of injustice done to an Indian citizen. Okay, on face of it, it is an injustice being done. Why can't an Indian government, which spends so much amount of money, can give for the blood money here, if at all that situation comes? I
No,
do
I
understand.
I don't know if the government can give per se, or whether that's going to be the
Well, given the
family
fact,
who will negotiate.
given, and it can do much more. It can file a, so before the Supreme Court asks what has been done. So the Indian government could have shown that this is what the representation they have given to the Yemen government. They could have said, okay, this is what the legal counsel we have appointed to defend him. This is what we have sought more time, and we all know there is section 76 in Yemen penal code. They could have taken advantage to done it, but what has been done on paper, just to say we did what we can before the Honorable Supreme Court, and not to show particular action item that has been done. So I think this is the Friday's proceedings are either going to be dismissed, or some action by Indian government needs to be shown. Had this been done in India, Section 106 would have come, and she would have just got a bail, and only if convicted also till 2 years of punishment,
Okay.
which has already
Okay.
taken place. So we need
Point
to
taken. Point taken. Madhav Nalapat, your quick reaction to this point by Mr. Jodhpani. You've also heard what Mukul Rohtgi said earlier on what more the Indian government can do. Do we expect that to be done this week?
Look, frankly, Uday, both are very, very famous and very, very able advocates, and both have performed brilliantly in several courtrooms, I'm sure, across the world. But the fact is that the Yemeni legal system does not operate like the Indian legal system does. So Indian precedent is not going to be of much value where the tribal law of Yemen is concerned. Tribal law supersedes all laws. I'm very certain the government of India, External Affairs Ministry, higher ups will be taking an active interest in the case and have been taking an active interest in the case. And I would just like to point out that whether it is through the intercession of Russia or, yes, I agree, India and Iran have got very good ties, and frankly, but the only the point is that it will have a tremendous impact on public opinion if Iran, for example, were to succeed in ensuring that that a reasonable amount of settlement takes place, and this very the individual who has suffered, purgatory and hell, will be released. I think it's her husband and child. They deserve to be united with their mother, and all I can do is to join in the prayers of those who believe this will happen. But as for back-channel diplomacy, if you start making public back-channel diplomacy in public documents, such as or even in documents that are kept sealed, but until they're ordered to be unsealed, very frankly, no back-channel diplomacy will succeed. So back-channel diplomacy, by very nature, is black channel, and is very back channel, and if I may say so, it is of necessity in several situations such as this, kept very, very secret and confidential. What I'm certain of is that I think government will be working very hard. The Kerala state government will be working very hard to try and ensure that this unfortunate lady is returned in safety back to her husband and child. But all we can do, Uday, frankly, is to pray that that takes place, because very honestly, given the structure of tribal law there, and given the situation of an active conflict zone where she has gone, again, I would like to end by saying this is a warning to Indian citizens who are involved in conflict zones, whether it's in Sudan or whether it's in in Yemen or other locations. Please get out as soon as you can, and no amount of money can compensate for the loss.
Point taken. I'm afraid we've run totally out of time. We'll have to leave it at that. My thanks to all of our guests for joining us on this broadcast. Let's slip into a short break.